So Has, take us through those Q4 numbers, which were obviously not great, but perhaps slightly less bad than expected.
Well, you're right. It is an improvement from the third quarter. We had GDP coming in at 3.8% for the fourth quarter versus expectations of a contraction of 4.7% for the year. As you indicated earlier, Heidi, it is a contraction of 5%. 5.8% versus expectations of a contraction of 6%. So overall, better than expected, but not to take away from the fact that this is the worst contraction since independence in 1965. As the Prime Minister said recently, Singapore is not out of the woods yet. There are some signs of stabilization, but the recovery that we're seeing so far is uneven, and that is expected for quite some time. The issue really is tourism, trade. They've been impacted a great deal. Of course, this is a small economy, a very open economy. Its recovery is pretty much dependent on the global recovery as well. And, you talked about those PMIs, which you read out throughout the region. Singapore pretty much is a reflection of what's happening in Asia. Manufacturing is key, and we've seen manufacturing improving since November. That's giving a lift to the economies around the region, and that is expected to remain so. Singapore has said that if the recovery turns for the worse, it is there. It will pump in a lot more money. Already $100 billion Sing dollars has been pumped in. It is prepared to do more. And keep a watch on that GDP, or rather the budget that's coming out in February. That will help address the issues if needed.
And of course, Singapore, a small economy, and like many economies in Asia, depending not just on its Asian neighbors, but on Europe, on the U.S., those recoveries. It's always had to reinvent itself, I should say, to survive. But now this whole question of getting creative to bring back business travelers beyond the pandemic, what's going on there for Singapore?
Well, it's been tough. If you take a look at tourism, it accounts for about, 4% of GDP. Aviation, which has been slammed, 3% of GDP. So Singapore has to try revive travel in some way or form, Kathleen. And one way it's trying to do that is through Changi Airport. As you know, Changi Airport is very iconic. And recently, it said that it wants to promote glamping at Jewel, which is this entertainment center in the lush area of Jewel. It wants families to gather together, build huge white tents, and spend the night there, and will cost you about $240 US per night. It is an attempt to bring back travel. Also, not too far away from the airport is what's called Singapore Expo. It is building a lot of meeting rooms. It wants to attract travelers back to do their meetings not too far away from the airport so that it can revive aviation at the same time.